Coach, I know this has been a whirlwind day for you. You probably can't wait for it to end tonight. But what a wonderful opportunity for Maryland to have someone like you come and take over their basketball program.
That's kind of you. It's an honor to meet you. It's been a lot. It's emotional personally. It's exciting professionally. I've just tried to handle each step of the process respectfully, appropriately, and also be present. Sometimes when the pace goes so fast, you're trying to figure out what's next because they're wanting you to get to the next thing. But I think it's important to realize how much of a blessing this is. And so I want to make sure that every interaction that I handle with kindness, but I also have the appropriate first impression.
Interesting, basketball, the whole landscape has changed so much from when you first started coaching many, many years ago, 32 years as a college coach.
Yes, sir.
You adjust, and I think you made a point at your press conference about saying you have to adjust to the times. If you don't, you get left in the dust, basically.
Well, I think the only thing that's constant is change. And I don't think that, Mr. Johnny, that's just college athletics. I think that that's life. You could probably attest to that better than I could. And I think that it's human nature to resist change. And the amount of change that's transpired in the last 4 years in college athletics, it's never been more volatile. And transparently, I've spent a lot of time processing what is the best way. How should I handle this? What adjustments are the right next thing to adjust to as it continues to adjust? And similar to what I said this afternoon, and I'm not even saying that it's right, I think you can get lost in the change and you forget what things shouldn't change. And so over the last 18 months or so, as a leader, as a coach, even to the point as a husband and as a father, I've just tried to concentrate on the things that don't change and try to see if I can improve in those categories. It doesn't mean that I'm blind nor oblivious to the change, but because you don't know where it's going, if you just keep chasing the unknown, it's like a GPS without a direction. But I do know what's important. I do know what's important to young men. I do know what's important to this institution. I do know what's important to my family. And so I want to make sure that my energy and my emotion, I apply as much to the things that won't change as to the things that are changing.
A lot of people are not successful without the support of the family. Mm-hmm. Your wonderful wife, your 2 daughters, your 2 sons, all here. Yep. You made a point of pointing out to them how they're responsible in some way of you being where you are today.
Well,
I've been there, done that.
Sure. And you've done it a lot better and a lot longer and a lot more places. So you could probably articulate this answer with more wisdom than I could. Incredibly humbled to have the opportunity at Maryland. And really excited in a very almost pure way. But I'm not young anymore. I'm not quite old, but I can see old a lot easier than I remember young. And I'm seeing my children now become the age or older than the young men I've spent my entire career coaching. And it's very convicting, the sacrifices my children and my wife had made, like all coaches,
sure,
to be able to chase my dreams. And I don't necessarily think that I've always been selfish in my dreams, but I also know that they've had to give up a lot of normalcy in their life growing up. Let's move here, let's go there. No, we don't need to go out in public. We can't do that. Be careful what you say on social media. All of the things that come with that. And that's not even complaining, that's just being aware of what this is. And so to be able to have them all here and to share in it, we've done this a few times, and it's not always worked out with the speed of how these things go. It's not always worked out where all of my kids have been able to be there. And now they're at an age where they understand this. When I was named the head coach at Marquette, we didn't have 4 children. And now my oldest has graduated college and is what we call adulting. And I've been a head coach since she was in 1st grade. So like, she's lived through all of those changes. And to be able to see their growth in the world they're living in as it relates to the world they've lived in with their dad being a coach, to be able to see that today, that's why I had to make sure I mentioned them early. Otherwise, my tenure at Maryland might be pretty short.
Wise decision.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Growing up in Texas, and when you were in school, high school, was there one guy that latched onto you and said, "I want to be a coach like this guy"? Or was it later on? Like
Yeah,
I had high school coaches like that.
Yeah, I have always loved coaches, and I was not a good athlete in any sport, but at an early teenage age, I realized in some ways, without being able to say it, for a lot of young men, coaches are the last bastion of hope.
Exactly.
They're merchants of hope. They're hope dealers. They give young people an opportunity to dream, to have a vision like, you could do this, you could go here. This is how you can do it. And they instill a confidence, not because of talent, but an insatiable desire like, yes, chase, but chase it like this, chase it for these reasons. And I would not ever point out one person or two. My high school coaches, the ones that didn't coach me, I was going to practice, I was learning what teaching was, what coaching was. I attended a junior college, paid my own way, introduced myself to the AD, to the football coach, to the baseball coach, to the basketball coach. Can I come to practice? You may sweep the floor, you may wash the clothes. Every one of those coaches that are still alive have all texted me since I was named the coach at Maryland. My junior college coach,
that was Navarro, right?
I was at Navarro, and he was 70 when I hired him to be a consultant at Marquette. That was
Oh my God.
that was 17 years ago. He was with us at the last NCAA tournament a couple of weeks ago when he turned 88.
Wow.
And so I went to an NAIA school my last 2 years in college. Those coaches had a great impact on me. I was writing coaches when there wasn't an internet, when there wasn't email. Division III, Division II, not all of the titles that there are now, not specific to basketball. A lot of my most deepest relationships are with football coaches because I was just growing up wanting to coach. And obviously there's more football coaches than anything. And so football is my favorite sport. Football coaches are my favorite coaches. Coach Loxley was waiting on me last night when we showed up at the hotel. And he was, throughout the day, he was researching me. And he said, I didn't know you knew so-and-so and so-and-so because they've been reaching out to him. So I have grown up wanting to be a coach. I'm still wanting to be a coach, but I've studied coaches in all sports my whole life.
Your players gave you the greatest compliment
Unbelievable.
after the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And It probably brought some tears to your eyes to see what they said about you, about how you molded them to be the men that they are today.
Yeah.
That has changed so much over the years. Have you changed that way yourself?
No, that's the one thing, not to have any ego in what I'm saying. That's what coaching is to me. I was caught completely off guard when that press conference took place. Obviously, that's an emotional time when any season ends,
yeah,
especially when you're losing the game to go to the Sweet 16. We were ranked every week of the season. Unbelievable young men, unbelievable staff. And when all of that transpired, I didn't know how to handle it. And then similar to what I said today, to bring attention to all of the teams that I have been able to be a part of, all of those players, all of those coaches, at all of the places that have allowed me to be a part, that's led to this. And I didn't know when I said that at the press conference that they were going to show that clip from 2 weeks ago. And I got emotional when they were showing it at the press conference today, because today is another emotional day.
Sure.
Any goodbye is always hard. And I actually think any hello is also hard. And so, as I mentioned at the start, I've just tried to handle each situation, whether that situation is public or private. I've tried to handle each individual, whether it's public or private. They're important, they're not important, I don't know them, who are they? I've just tried to handle each situation and each person, regardless of the lens in which it's happening, in the appropriate way.
And Coach, I love when you went out of your seat before the press conference started today to go down and shake Gary Williams' hand. I think people understand the legacy of this school, how important basketball is, how important the right guy is for them to get for the job in you.
So they mentioned to me during the process that they wanted me to talk with Coach Williams. And I didn't know that early in the process a lot of the people that I was talking to. I've written Coach Williams for years. I never mentioned that I have written Coach Drizel for 20 years. I never mentioned that Coach Drizel's daughter and son were calling me when Coach was at the end. I never mentioned that George Raveling is one of my greatest mentors who worked here with Coach Drizel the first 4 years. I never mentioned that Coach Raveling's book with Ron Holiday, Coach Rav is 87, came out last month, and he mentions me several times in the book. I didn't want the Maryland job because I knew the history of the talent of the players, the talent of the coaches, because I never wanted to barter my relationships with those coaches as if I had ownership in this program. What this program has done speaks for itself, and that has nothing to do with Buzz. But when I see Coach Williams, I'm going to speak to him whether it's a press conference or not, whether I'm supposed to be sitting behind you. Yeah. I'm going to speak to him. Towards the end of Coach Drizel's life, they took his phone. And every time he would see his daughter or Chuck, he would tell him to call me. And
wow.
Chuck came here today.
I was talking to Chuck about this, today.
Chuck sent me a long text. I have like over 3,000 texts. I'm not going to be able to respond for a while, but this was very early when this happened. And he said, my dad's rejoicing in heaven. That's cool. So, yeah.
When you take over a program like this, and the portal being as it is, guys test the portal all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go to another school. You've already met with the guys who are here. I think you mentioned that you're going to mold your team upon the personalities.
Sure.
What's best for them, what's best for you, what's best for the program.
That's right.
And go from that point.
Yeah, and I think the only way to do those things, first of all, I think it's the right way to do it.
Sure.
It's right by those young men. It's right by the families they represent. It's right by the families represented within the program today, but it's also right by all of those who have built this program to what it is. And so there is no one way to do it, just like there's not just one way to win college basketball games. But I do think, similar to what we talked about earlier, I do think the thing that we're not going to change is we're going to tell people the truth. And if they're here, we want the experience to impact their life and their game in a positive way. I don't want the University of Maryland to only be about basketball. It's important. It's how we're judged. I understand that. I'll never shy away from that. But at the same time, Mr. Johnny, I want our program to be total development, personal development, physical development, mental development, emotional development, basketball development. There's a lot of development. And when you're talking about the portal, is it because of a coach? Is it because of an institution? Is it because of a style of play? Is it because of a location? Is it because of a dollar amount? You never know.
Yeah.
And so my interaction with the team today was great. But I was, from the very beginning, completely transparent. And I don't think that the way teams were built and comprised 10 years ago, that doesn't translate to what it is now. And as they ask at the end of the press conference, what about roster construction? Yes, sir, I'm aware. It's every day. And it's for sure today, because we just got here, and how many guys do we need to sign, and where's it going to go? But it's going to be that same answer in June. It's going to be that. That's just the way this has gone.
When you started way back in New Orleans with your first head coaching job, everywhere you've gone, Marquette, Virginia Tech, Texas A&M, have been terrific. And each school has been different for you. You've coached different because they're different players.
That's right.
Each year, so you don't know what your team's going to. It's not the same as it was at Virginia Tech.
No.
At Texas A&M. It won't be the same at Maryland, I'm sure.
No. I think some of that's the responsibility of a good coach. Get the young people that have the intangibles that you want your program to be about, and then figure out how to best put them in a position to allow their strengths as a player to be at the most efficient and effective level. And how we, like I said earlier, how we played at Texas A&M, every single thing that we're doing on both sides of the ball is completely different than what we did at Virginia Tech. Similar to what we did at Virginia Tech in the ACC at that time versus what we did in the Big East before what it is now, completely different. I don't necessarily think, Mr. Johnny, that we've been like on the cutting edge of ways to play, but I do think we've done a good job and been fairly consistent on the types of people that best represent what we want to be about off the floor, and the pace at how we want to work, not play, how we want to work, and the care factor that doesn't have a stat sheet, but is arguably the most important thing in what we do. And then once we start identifying the right intangibles, it's like a recipe. Okay, how can we fit all of these ingredients together and cook the best cake? And sometimes the cake may have to cook at a different temperature. Sometimes it may have a different type of, frosting. You'll figure that out, but you got to get the appropriate ingredients first. And so what's that going to be? I want to study the Big Ten a little bit. I don't really have time to study the Big Ten right now. I need to study our roster. And I do know, as of this minute, we have a lot of work in front of us. And so it's about the people, just like with the staff. Who are you going to hire on your staff? I have a lot of good ideas, and I feel comfortable about a lot of it. But it's the people that I'm hiring, not the titles that I'm hiring.
Coach, before I let you go, how about Buzz's Bunch? You got to talk about them. You did it at Marquette, Virginia Tech, and Texas A&M. Something that's necessary, I think, in this day and age to focus on young, challenged young people.
So it's an unbelievable story. And I answered it a couple of times, but I'll give you a more in-depth answer. So I should not have been hired as the head coach at Marquette. There were some decision makers at Marquette who had great belief in me without a resume to suggest that I could do well. Great men who had incredible guts. When I was offered the job, I didn't know what questions to ask. And at Marquette, as you know, it's a Jesuit institution, and so the president is a Jesuit priest. And so Father Wild said, "Buzz, do you have any questions?" I said, "Yes, sir, I have some questions." He said, "What are your questions?" And I said, "Do you think, Father, if for some reason something were to happen to me, that my contract from an insurance standpoint would take care of my family?" He goes, "We'll make sure of it." I said, "Okay." He said, "You got any other questions? That one's pretty easy. We have insurance here." I said, "Do you think my wife and I could start a nonprofit organization for special need children and not restricted in size or in scope?" And he goes, "Can you explain that?" And I said, "Well, Father, like you've heard of Coaches versus Cancer?" He said, "Yes." "Is that when you wear those pink uniforms?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, I want to start an organization with my wife. I don't want the school to have to do anything financially, but I want that to be the organization we have for special need children. But I don't want to restrict it to they have to be a certain age, or it has to be pediatric cancer, or it has to be Down syndrome. I don't want to restrict it in size or scope." He goes, "No problem." That was 18 years ago, and it's so impactful to our family, and I believe all of the families that have been a part, that everything that Buzz's Bunch now has had over the last 18 years is the Buzz's Bunch logo, no matter where we're at. Marquette's Buzz's Bunch logo was blue and gold. Virginia Tech's Buzz's Bunch logo was maroon and orange. Texas A&M's logo was maroon and white. And those logos, like when you go on a concert tour, those logos are on everything we print, because we want the Buzz's Bunch team not to be just where we are at that moment. Corey and I want that to be a part of the legacy we leave to families that have nothing to do with basketball. And so without overstating how important it is to us, it's a part of the contract that I signed here yesterday.
To make sure it's done here.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
That must mean as much to you as coaching,
So
or maybe even more.
So the only thing that I have said, and I heard a few things today, just because it's natural, Buzz is not my given name, it's my nickname. And I've made sure that from a marketing standpoint that they never use Buzz in a marketing sort of way, because Buzz is for Buzz's Bunch, and that's for those children. And that's the way it's always been, and I hope that that's the way it always stays. And when I'm not coaching, and when I'm Coach Williams, the Coach Williams, not Buzz Williams, we can still have Buzz's Bunch, and we can still impact special need children and their families. We have children that have been a part of Buzz's Bunch since year one who are now coaching. We have part of Buzz's Bunch children who have won Special Olympic gold medals. There's layers and depth to it, but it's not about me, it's about them. But this is a big day for them too.
Coach, thanks
Pleasure.
for your time.
So honored to meet you.
Thank you, Coach. My pleasure.
We should have had Coach Williams introduce you, and then you introduce Coach Williams, and then start the press conference.
This was great.
Yeah,
Thank
nice
you,
to
Coach.
meet you.
Okay, thank you.